Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Tech Tuesday. I'm Allison Mandara with Sony, and I'm very excited to be moderating this exciting panel with a lovely group of women we have here today during Women's History Month. So, this is a very important topic and one that I think will have some very good insights from this group of individuals. We're going to have some challenges, some opportunities. We're going to talk about how you can be an ally to women in the AV industry. So, to introduce everyone, I wanted to first say hi to Kianna Pompa, who is a product manager for Sony. Then we have Chrissy Sara, who's the senior post sales support engineer at Sony. We have Tammy Fuqua, the developer partner manager at QSC. Michelle Montazeri, the VP of channel and commercial sales for Ergotron. And last but not least, Susan Wilhite, the Senior Director of Business Development for Bluefin. So thank you all for joining us.
Yahoo!
Hi, Allison. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So I wanted to first take a moment to have everyone introduce themselves and their roles. So I'll start with you, Kianna.
Hi, everyone. Like Allison mentioned, my name is Kianna Pompa. I'm the product manager for our Bravia displays within our professional solutions department. And I'll pass it over to Chrissy.
Hey, hi everyone. Nice to see you. My name is Chrissy, and I work for the service division in Sony. So I support Kiana's team on making sure that customers are being answered and answered efficiently, as well as working on process change management just to make sure that we're delivering effectively and efficiently on our side of the world. So I still get to nerd out with y'all sometimes when I give you a call, but yeah, it's a great new role, so I really enjoy it.
Then I think,
Tammy?
am I next? Yes. Hi, Tammy Fuqua, and I'm the developer partner manager at QSC, which is a fancy term for just building relationships with our third-party developers that develop plugins for us. I've been in the AV industry, oh my gosh, 25 years. And I was the former chair to the Avixa Women's Council.
And hi, Allison. Michelle Montazeri with Ergotron, Vice President of Commercial and Channel Sales. Been with Ergotron for a solid 5 months, so I'm still in the month category with Ergotron. Been in the industry for about 15 years and really, really excited to share the stage, the quintessential stage, with such a powerful group of women. So thanks for having me today.
Hello, and my name is Susan Wilhite. I am the Senior Business Development Manager at Bluefin. We are a manufacturer of digital signage, LCD screens. I am excited to be here amongst this great group of women, and I look forward to today's event.
Well, thank you. Now that we know who you all are, can you tell us how you got here? How did you get into the AV industry? How did you become a part of this great community? Kianna, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so this is a big one. I feel like I've always knew I wanted to pursue a career in STEM, but I initially focused on networking and computer security. To be honest, I really didn't know what the AV industry really entailed. However, while I was working at a NAS storage company that sold camera video storage, I was able to delve into the world of PTZ cameras. And that experience really ignited my passion for AV technology. When I came across a job opportunity at Sony that required networking expertise, I felt like it was a perfect moment to transition. And it was right at the forefront where we shifted from AV to IP based solutions. So it was incredible to now look back at how far we've come. Like today, we can integrate network based cameras seamlessly into video conferencing systems when before we were really limited to like the length of a USB cable. So it's been so rewarding to be part of this like technology evolution, and it's exciting to see what comes next.
Thank you.
That's cool. I don't even
Chrissy.
know if I knew that. That's awesome. Let's see. How did I get started? Way back in the day. I was going to make a joke about how I got on this call. Like, well, I turned on my laptop. No, I started 15 years ago. I originally wanted to be a late night TV producer. I had grown up watching Larry King Live, and I really wanted to get involved in that. So I worked strategically with different universities and started working right away in the live event, television broadcast industry. And somewhere along the line, I got asked to freelance as a scoreboard operator for a golf event, a pro golf event. Didn't know what really any of that meant, but showed up and got whisked away into the pro AV industry. And my focus has really always been around video signal processing and transfer and making sure that the color looks just as good on the output as it does on the input. And so that's where I like to nerd. And working at Sony has been really great because I've been back in the saddle of manufacturing, and then also seeing kind of what you Kianna mentioned is just the newness that comes with that and technology, and getting a chance to see it out in the wild, which is a really fulfilling every day.
Very interesting. I didn't know that about you, Chrissy. You learned
Thanks.
something new. And Tammy, what about you?
Well, I think I'm the complete opposite of Kianna and Chrissy. I fell into this job by accident. It was the highest paying job at the time, and I can date myself by telling you the first product I sold was a DVD and CD duplicator. So
Nice.
thankfully, I evolved a little bit and went into a bit more manufacturing. But at the beginning, it was just the job. And then I began to love it as far as geeking out on products that I was selling and learning more about the industry. So it was an evolution for sure, but now I'm in a place that really makes me happy, and working with a great team where I'm at, and meeting even more people in the AV industry makes me happy too.
Thank you. Michelle, how did you get here?
Oh gosh, well, it's a storied history that would take the entire hour for me to go through. But the short and long of it is, it fell into my lap. I was finishing grad school. I moved out of the country, and I was like, I want to get the heck back to the States. I missed my family, and an opportunity at Polaroid kind of sat in my lap when I was in grad school. Polaroid was still kind of a cool brand back then, and so it sounded like a cool opportunity. I started in project management, and then moved into product management, and then moved into product marketing. And a sales opportunity kind of landed in my lap again. And I was like, gosh, sales is just not me. I'm a product person. I like technology. And then I found the sweet spot for me, which is really, I love being in sales. I'm an empath. So I've really found the people in the industry are what keep me here every day. I just absolutely love the people in this industry through and through. So it's been a really fun storied history, and I think it's very telling about, we all have different ways that we got here, but at the end of the day, you find a little bit of passion in what you do, and you expand that throughout your career, and that's definitely been the truth for me. So.
And I'm with you. The people are definitely what keeps everyone here, and I'm sure you can all attest to that. And we have a great group of individuals here with us today. Susan, can you tell us about your journey to getting into the AV space?
Yes. Similar to Tammy, I kind of fell into it. I was gonna joke and say I filled out an ad in a newspaper, but the young kids on this, like Kianna and Chrissy, are gonna be like, "What's that?" I'm kidding. It was on LinkedIn.
Hey, I used to read newspapers at breakfast when I was a kid, all right?
So, yeah, I started out, and Michelle and I were just talking about this a couple weeks ago. I actually started 11 years ago at Stewart Film Screen. So even though I feel like I've been doing this in dog years, but I'm still kind of new, but I'm not, and so it's been a great ride. And I do feel that I'm very lucky for the relationships that I've made in this industry.
Thank you.
Me too.
Well, I know that this is a common question that comes up when we're talking about women and women in the AV industry, but it is a male-dominated area. So what challenges have you faced and how have you overcome them? I'll open it up to the group if anyone has any specific examples or insight they want to share.
I don't mind kicking it off. I think one of the things that has maybe driven me to be so successful in our industry was the challenge of walking in as a very young woman with very little technology background, kind of not knowing what I was talking about. Let's be honest, or in the early days, and some days still today, and being questioned, and walking into the room and a group of seasoned veterans in the industry who don't look like me. Perhaps I look like their daughter or a young relative. They think, what are you going to do for me? And how can you help me in my business? And proving them wrong has been my passion from day one. By working really hard, getting to know what I'm talking about, inspiring others to do the same, staying focused on what's important in business, and being true to who I am, I think has carried me really far. But it was all predicated on that one challenge, which was I want to prove that a young woman can walk in this door and kill it, just as much as somebody with 20, 30 years of experience. So
I have seen a lot of the people on this presentation do much of the same thing. They all kill it every room they walk into. I am astounded by the knowledge that you all possess. So I love that you want to prove everyone wrong, and you certainly have. So thank you.
Thanks, Allison.
I feel like there's a book coming, Michelle, in your future.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I want to hear all those stories. That's awesome.
I feel like at the beginning it was really hard to find role models. There was definitely no DEI when I started in the industry. I was usually the only female in a conference room with all males, and then I think the struggle was trying to find women that I could look up to. It seemed like every company I went to, there were not females in executive roles. So I think when I got deeper into the industry, it was very beneficial to learn of other women in the industry and watch them grow and try to maybe in some small ways emulate what they were doing. But also just learning how beneficial it was to network with other women in this industry. I mean, I'll throw the statistic out here. I do every time I talk about this. There's only 11% women in the US and even less out of the US. I think it's like 4 to 6%. So growing those numbers are really key. But I think the beginning, it was really hard because it was like, what am I doing in this industry if I don't have women that I can role model off of? So
I would add to that too,
Yeah.
when I started, lack of representation and sometimes being, underestimated. But, really working on developing your knowledge. And to be honest with you, I sought out mentors and whether they're male or female. And it was actually the males that introduced me to other females.
Hmm.
And that really helped, to build my confidence connecting with them. And, so I encourage other women, to do the same. Seek out mentors, whether they're men or women. It doesn't hurt. Ask questions.
Yeah, I
Speaking
feel
of
like
that, I know a lot of you are involved in the community. Are there any resources, any groups that you would recommend to people who are looking to find like-minded people to network with and learn from and be inspired by?
maybe one or two. I think, of course, I'll tell Avixa Women's Council because I was involved with it for so long. Wave It is definitely a great organization that's bringing women education and mentorship. But I think the key is finding the group that speaks to you. I mean, if you're heavily into audio, then find a women's group that has a background of audio or whatever that might be. But those are the two off the top of my head that I can say, get involved in. But I mean, the biggest thing is get involved with the women's group.
And I even think, sometimes beyond the organized women's group, because sometimes that can be really intimidating, particularly for somebody who's new in the industry. For the earlier in career employees that I've had a chance to kind of foster, which is just one of my passions, because I remember being, new in the industry and not having somebody who looked or thought like me, or had experiences like me. But put them in front of a group of women, and typically they're going to find somebody who they just attach to. I'm really keen on people's personalities, so I try to connect people who I think will meet in the middle and just have a great friendship. And sometimes those are the most impactful people in your life. Is just we don't label them as mentors often, but they really are incredibly impactful and meaningful to our growth as people, not just as AV professionals or technology professionals. So that's a I think a big miss sometimes is sometimes we forget that there is a world of professional women in the industry that we can lean on, sometimes outside of the industry too.
That's a great point.
I think even being an ally, right? So everyone joining this call today is learning about, our career paths and how we've came up in the industry, but challenging yourself to be an ally. Maybe you're not part of a specific organization or group, but you all work with colleagues, maybe someone above you or below you that you can be an ally, make an introduction, make a connection, and be there as a resource.
Absolutely.
I agree with everything everyone's saying, and I would also add that there's a real importance, especially being in a male-dominated industry and a technology-dominated industry, is that you need to really do the work to become grounded and rooted in why you're here, and that involves, if you love the tech side, get involved in the tech side. If you love sales, get involved in sales. If you are in sales and you love tech and you don't love sales, get out. Like, the AV industry is so diverse with not just roles, but things that you can get involved in, that I highly recommend women who are here to pay attention to what they really want out of this industry and balance that with what you can give the industry. And when you focus on where you're coming from as a grounded AV technician or AV woman, is you tend to find the groups, they kind of find you. Like, I remember meeting Tammy and Susan at an Infocom, I think, I don't remember what year it was, but we just immediately just whoosh, like Velcroed. And it's because we're similar women in the mindset of we are here and we're not going anywhere. And that really helped me stay connected. And I wanted to go back to the question about what it's been like in a male dominated industry. And, part of that's just par for the course, right? It's just, there's male dominated industries everywhere. Like, I don't want to hang too heavily on that part. But one element that I did want to talk about was very early on, I realized very intentionally that I was the least paid person on all the teams. And I do want to advocate for equal pay as time goes on. But one thing that helped me get to where I'm at now in feeling, more balanced in that area is finding out how larger corporations have to manage that, and that makes it a lot easier to feel, more equally addressed. And I remember one of my early jobs, I actually was on site with some of my coworkers, and somehow, some way, a page of everyone's salaries got on the desk under the keyboard. So, like, somebody stashed it there for like hey, I got to come back to this. It's a safe place. And I was moving the keyboard and I lifted it and I saw my name and I saw that I was at the bottom of the page. And I was like, okay, well, that's officially my challenge is learn how I can help women advocate for themselves to be more equally paid. So I do want to point out that it's not just about it being a male-dominated industry. It's just an industry in itself has its pros and cons.
Thank you. We did get a question from David in the audience, and he wants to know, AV pros are one thing, but what have you learned from the much larger number of women AV end users today that are becoming heavily involved in the conversation? So I'll throw that out to the group.
I love that question. I think you said it was David, because I think it's so most of us, I'm like looking around right now, all of us actually are on the manufacturing side, which I just found very interesting as I'm looking around our panel, because we kind of tend to group together in our various spaces. And I think I would be honest if I say I think we're newer to branching out beyond tech providers in the space and being in the AV industry. So, meaning women at the reseller network and women in integration and women in end user spaces. What's I suppose not surprising is the women in end user spaces that I've spoken with, they're experiencing the same challenges. And so they actually look to us as women deeper in technology in many instances to provide support. So when I think about mentorship, I think how can we reach over the quintessential fence, and help ensure that our entire industry is included in the conversation, not just those of us that provide technology in this space. Because we do get a bit siloed, because when I look around a trade show floor, who I see most often, it's us, right? And so I think it's a really important thought to take into consideration, because I think it is newer to many of us to think about the broader industry, and how women at the end user level think about, somebody in IT and education. Probably a pretty male dominated space as well, even though education traditionally isn't thought of as a male dominated space. And so, a great consideration that we should all make, as we think about bringing women to the table.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I covered it all.
So can we talk about progress now? I know some of you are newer to the industry, some of you have been in the industry for a while. What progress have you seen over the years? Is there anything you can point to that's showing that we're trending in the right direction?
I won't start this time.
So just to clarify, Allison, your question was progress for including women in the workspace? Okay.
Yes.
Let me think about that. Hang on.
I can give some, I guess I will go first. I can give my impressions, because I started on the consumer side of technology, which was more diverse at that time. But the diversity looked quite different. I was actually just speaking with some folks this morning. Back when I started in the industry, women were solely, if I think about Consumer Electronics Show, for example, we were solely, I'm going to use a really not appropriate term, but we were booth babes. We were literally brought in to draw people into the booth, not for anything beyond that. And now I think where we are today, now Infocom is significantly different than CES in terms of audience, but it's changed pretty significantly. There are lines in the women's restroom. That's something that we've all talked about, is like, there's a line in the women's restroom at Infocom. That's a first. It doesn't mean we don't have a ton of work to do. No, but I think from a at least technology sales perspective, the room has changed significantly. And the fact that we're even talking about women in the workplace is a drastic, or is an enormous progress from when I started in the industry. So that alone I will take.
I would say that I have experienced in the last 3 years less stereotyping, microaggression type behavior from males. And I think that I think what's happening is a shift where instead of those loud, inappropriate gestures and conversations that used to be encouraged, those are now the odd conversations. Like now, if you're in a group at a dinner or something, and one of the males there make a comment, like the table doesn't laugh, they just kind of like, oh, that was awkward. And that's been a huge difference. And I love that, because I feel like, have you guys ever heard about that thing where you sit in the silence or sit in the awkwardness instead of trying to, defend yourself? And I've seen that. So I have felt that it's kind of flipped, is now there's more general respect coming first rather than the inappropriateness, which is a progress I would say I've seen.
And Chrissy, maybe less fear about saying something, or at least reacting like, ooh, that was really uncomfortable. I don't know that we're to the point where everyone feels comfortable saying something in every environment, but at least we're going, ooh, awkward.
Right. Awkward turtle.
Yeah.
And I think we probably all have a story of like where you're working a booth. And in the past, we probably all have a story of when a male would walk up and go like, I want to see your product. And you're ready to tell them. And they're like, can I talk to this guy over here? I think that part of the conversation we had earlier was just like, if you know your product and know how to show it off and things, it's showing that we have a place here and that we are just as knowledgeable as that guy that's standing over on the other side of the booth. I think that that's where this evolution is happening, where we're showing that we have a place here. And I think that it's slow moving. I mean, I think there's still a lot that needs to be done, but I think that there are small things happening that are allowing to activate change. So at least that's what my perception has been, or as what I've seen.
I think that
So
goes hand in
building
hand with representation. Sorry,
Mhm.
Allison. Because I think I've always struggled with being the first. Like, I'm first generation American, first generation to graduate from college. And since I started just in my college career, I was in classes where I was the only female.
Mhm.
And as I've progressed through my career and through the years, I'm seeing more and more representation of the female community. So just like Michelle mentioned and Tammy mentioned, like we're at booths and there's multiple women there and we're actually there for a
Yep.
purpose, not just a booth babe, right? But I
Mhm.
think even representation as a whole, like at Sony, I'm so proud to say our president of our professional
Mhm.
organization is a female. So I think that it's starting to feel, at least to me, that I'm not alone in this. So I think that that's amazing.
Yeah,
And
and
I want it to keep growing.
I every time you talk, Kian, I get so inspired. It's like we got to do a podcast episode or something. But your what you just said is a huge point for me. And I also have a woman in our VP slot, and um, it it's that whole, if she's there, then I could maybe one day be there too. And I see that happening more and more. For instance, running for city council, I don't know if I would have if I didn't know that the president is a woman, right? Like it's just something where like if she can do it, I can do it, and it's ever so subtle. And I know, Tammy, you have a personal campaign around that as well, and it means a lot to me to always see you out there doing it, because it makes me feel like I can do it too. And I want to shout out to any women that are listening or going to listen. Like, if you're listening to these conversations and these answers, and you're like, who are these women? Like, how do they feel so supported and so strong and confident? And like, reach out to us and tell us what's going on in your world. Because if you're feeling alone, or feeling attacked, or feeling like you don't understand anything we're saying because you're not experiencing it, let us into that circle, and we would love to build you up into the next powerhouse woman of AV. I was just listening to Kianna talk and thinking, when I first started at Sony, her being on my team was a huge part of me being not only successful, but feeling like I could do the day to day that we had, because our jobs were really hard. So yeah, anyways, that was just exciting. Got me all excited, Kianna.
I love that,
I
Chrissy.
know. I mean, if we're going to get a little heartfelt, I feel like everyone here since I started has progressed so much in their career. And a little shout
Yeah.
out to Michelle. She's VP now, so she inspires me. Tammy, Susan, you've all been a really big mentor to me since I started in the AV industry. And I've seen all of you progress. And Chrissy, we've grown alongside each other. So it's been an amazing journey so far to see all of you grow.
And
Aw.
it goes vice versa too, in the sense that I'm optimistic seeing, younger women in this
Mm.
industry have an opportunity to lead and innovate,
Yeah.
So seeing the number of women growing in leadership roles, it's having that ripple effect. So not only is it like seeing Kianna and Chrissy, but it inspires me.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
love
important.
that.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Tammy or Chrissy. I'm not sure who that
No,
was. I'm sorry,
oh,
Tammy.
go
Um,
ahead. No, go ahead, Michelle.
This actually ties back to something you did with Avixa. So we had a woman that spoke at the Avixa Women's Breakfast, I think last year or the year before, I don't honestly remember, but she made the comment about, if you think men are at the table and they don't have imposter syndrome, you're kidding yourself, because
Mm-hmm.
they're faking it as well. We don't really know what we're doing. We're just kind of making best guesses based on the experiences we have, the information we have in the moment, and we make mistakes. And so if you
Yeah.
think, yeah, it's great that they could do that, but they had all the boxes checked when they got there. That is so not true. It is 100%
It is.
right.
It's not true at all. I mean, we're setting precedents as we go
Yeah.
along, right? I mean, this is all new. And I think, like, for any women that are out there, if you feel like you're not supported, like you mentioned, reach out to us. I mean, I want every woman to feel that they're supported in this industry. And the best way to do that is to get connected with other women, or even just like we were talking about, allies. I mean, without these people, we're not going to affect any change. And we have to keep having the conversations, because if we don't keep having the conversations, there won't be any change. So that's a big part of like why I continue to try to like, be an advocate for women in this industry. I want them to all feel like I feel, supported by other amazing women and other things. I mean, even in my company alone, many of the executives are women. I mean, I think it's almost half. I think it's like 4 out of 7 are or no, 3 out of the 7 are female, and that's a great way for me to keep striving to like, okay, let's make it even. I mean, that's exciting. So.
I did want
Build
to
your
point out,
AV tribe.
yeah,
Build your AV tribe.
definitely. I did want
Yeah.
to point out too something, just to tie it back around to the male dominated question too, is when I first started, I was kind of just had this mentality of like, oh yeah, like I'm the only woman. One of the companies that I joined, several companies actually, I was the first woman. So like my welcome gift was the woman's bathroom sign. And there are still and will always be males in the industry who don't want women present. And I don't want our narrative or our focus or people who's listening's focus to be, I'm going to prove those people wrong. That's a waste of your time. Let them go be whatever they're going to be, and you focus on you and your impact in the industry. And that's kind of what we're sharing in this statement and these comments about getting involved. Is it's just let that roll off your back. Some of that stuff's going to come up because those people are never going to change or never understand new terminology or new technology the way that we do. And there's a lot in the industry to go and grab, and don't let those naysayers or whatever you want to call them, I'm trying to think of a politically correct term, to hold you back, because that's not the definition of our industry. Something about our industry that I love, in fact, is Michelle's point about not everybody has the boxes checked. I want to be in an industry where nobody has the boxes checked, because then we're innovating. That's the whole point of the excitement of our roles and our influence. So great thought.
Awesome.
We did get another question from the audience. Patty had asked, how does the group use social media as a way of reaching out to mentor others or find a mentor?
That's a great
I
question.
know, Chrissy, you're very active on social, so you may have some insight there.
It's funny you threw that to me, because social media to me is a necessary evil. I am personally more of a let's go grab coffee kind of person, not let me tweet my deepest, darkest secret. However, I would like to say that I think I found to this point of my career a balance where I'm sharing a thought that I do have, or a question that I do have, and I'm not afraid of the response back. But that comes from a secure self, which is, new and interesting. And so I can throw something out there and say, hey, if you're interested to talk about equal pay, or you're interested to talk about possible situations that you're not comfortable with and you don't know who to go to, like reach out to me. I'm here. Part of my AV Teach aspect is some women are too scared to learn about technology. And I want to break those concepts down. Technology is fun. It's kind of like cooking. You just got to get all the right ingredients, and then poof, your cake actually turns out good. So yeah, I think
Some skill too, Chrissy. Like, let's not give the ingredients credit.
Yeah. So social media, I do think that you have to learn kind of the nature of it. I started with another fellow gal in the industry, who's somebody who I love to talk to. Her and I started a podcast this past year, and part of our goal of the podcast is to really bring out the realness behind the women that are in the industry, and kind of casually speak about what's going on. And that's a way to use social media. Also, go and find your industry queens that you're almost scared to talk to, and follow them and like their comment. Be brave enough to like a comment, or like a post, or even comment on a post of theirs, and that can help you kind of break down some of the womanhood competition that tends to exist between women, and also the fear of talking to somebody that you look up to.
Chrissy, I like that. And I think, I'm so sorry. I don't know who I cut off.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I'm sorry,
I'll hop
Tammy,
in.
again. I'm sorry.
Michelle and I do it too. No, sorry, go ahead.
I found that sharing our stories is the key to mentor relationships. Even starting is typically somebody shares a story, you hear something, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I totally relate to that person," and I saw their authentic self. Because when we talk about ourselves, we show our most true self, right? I mean, I'm clearing out all the cuss words, but this is pretty much me. So I think if we can use social media, and I'm with you, Chrissy, I'm not a huge social media person. I don't use anything but LinkedIn, but that could even be a place where if we share little tidbits about ourselves, I think we show who we are authentically. And then people start to reach out and say, "Hey, I would love to learn a little bit more. I would love to talk to you about your experience in A, B, C, or D." But that's how you cast a wider net than your internal bubble or your group of girlfriends that you talk to who know a little bit more about you, right? So I encourage those who are looking for a mentor to look for people who are sharing their story, but also I think it's our responsibility as what I'd call, don't take this the wrong way to any of us, but more seasoned veterans in this industry to share our story more broadly.
Yeah, I was gonna just you both stole all my answers.
Sorry.
So I'll say that.
Tammy has a stamp of approval.
I'm just gonna reiterate all those things. I use LinkedIn a lot. I used to be a big, well, I'm gonna say Twitter fan because it was back when I was using it was more Twitter, but it was a way for me to be able to promote myself first. I mean, I did want to try to market myself some, so I did use LinkedIn to if I did any blogs or a podcast like this or a panel like this. I was always kind of promoting it. And then I want to do the same for the other women that are in the industry, resharing meetings that they're having or accomplishments that they're having. That was my way of using social media. And I also use LinkedIn to kind of archive all of those things so that anybody who is interested in learning more about some of the things that were accomplished, they could go on my LinkedIn and see that. At first I was a little weird about it because I thought, oh, this is so narcissistic of me. But it was really a way of just trying to market myself and hopefully same thing for anybody who's watching this, if you want to ask me questions, that's what I'm here for. I did that a lot in my career as I was coming up. I mean, I don't think I would have been able to get to this point in my career without being able to reach out to other people and ask questions. I'm certainly not going to be like, oh, well, why are you asking me that question? I want to be able to share that information with people. So I think that's how I leverage social media and probably will continue to do so in some way. So I encourage anyone to use social media as a way of marketing themselves.
Yeah, and I definitely notice everybody's using it to lift one another up, to support one another, and I'm so glad that you're all stepping up and offering up your support to anybody on this discussion here today. So thank you. We did get another question from Jay. What would you see as one of the biggest challenges women may face with upcoming emerging technologies like AI in the AV space?
That is a good question.
AI is definitely at the forefront right now.
So I caution to think that the challenges women face are any different than the challenges men face. It's a new technology, right? It's a new technology. We don't know how it's going to impact the industry in many ways. It's a buzzword. How we leverage, I think we have responsibilities and stewards as manufacturers to tell the story about how AI can support somebody's business. And improve processes, et cetera. And internally, how we leverage AI to share that with others. But I don't view that as a specific to women or any specific group of AV professionals. It's my opinion.
I had a similar thought about that. Sorry, Kianna. And I feel maybe Kianna will say the same thing. I don't know. But my thought really is copy paste this question for any emerging technology, and if you're someone in the audience who's sitting there like, do I want to get involved in AI? And you're going back and forth. Just if this seems interesting to you, pick that as your thing that you're going to dive into, right? There's always in technician spaces, there's always somebody's like who has their thing. For me, it's video signal. So if you think AI is interesting to be a thing, do it. A lot of the buzzword conversations, like there's people out there saying AI and they don't even know what it means. Turns out there's like 7 different categories of AI, right? So if that sounds interesting to you as a woman, go and champion that. And then you're going to be the expert in 3 years, 5 years from now. And that's a way that you can kind of get on the horse. That's just a comment I had about that. Sorry, Kianna, go ahead.
No, I was going to be right in agreement. Like,
Yeah.
if it's emerging technology, you can be the first, and I don't think it matters
Yeah.
the gender or wherever you're starting. I think just hopping in and immersing yourself in any type of technology. But I think AI has been rapidly evolving and changing and growing, and we're still not even sure of what the limitations or regulations are. So if that's something you're passionate about, dive into it, and it doesn't really matter, where you start.
Agreed. I think everything has a set of challenges, a set of opportunities, and you just have to find what those are. You shouldn't fear it. You should embrace it and see how it can work to your benefit. And we did get a question about Chrissy's podcast. So the podcast is the Wave It podcast. So to answer that for you. And we've talked a lot about progress and changes, but of course there's always still work to be done. So I wanted to put a question out to the group. What do you think are areas for growth, opportunity? What can we be doing to better support women? How do you see women growing in the AV space?
I think one of the questions I got asked quite often as the chair for the council was, I will put out a job rec and no women will apply for it. I think the answer I always gave back was, well, did you read through that job rec really well? And does it speak to women too? That was like one of the first things. And then for women that are looking for jobs, one of the recommendations I always make is, even if you don't have tick all the boxes on that job, then still apply. Your male counterpart may only have 50%, but they will still apply. So I think those are ways to kind of like allow women to see that there's growth potential that maybe they didn't think of, and to employers growth potential of women in the different roles. If it just was a little bit more fine tuned, maybe even like where they're posting the job posting. Maybe it's not where women would typically look for a job. I think that there's just like everyone needs to just go back to the basics and like look through what everyone is trying to accomplish. If you're trying to accomplish having more women apply for these positions, make the job rec more appealing to women. If you're a woman wanting to apply for a job, don't look at just the every single detail. Go for it, no matter what that job rec looks like. If you feel like you're passionate about that role, find the things that you want in that role and apply for it, or learn more about the items that are in that role so you can be able to apply for it. I mean, those are just a few small examples.
Tammy brings up some really great points. And one thing that you can do is, be an advocate for other women. I've had many men that are looking to hire more women. So they have sent me the job rec and I'll repost it on LinkedIn, job alerts. One of my other hats is Wave It, Women in AV and IT, which was brought up. And Chrissy has a podcast on Wave It, Women in AV and IT. We also have a mentorship program. So there's a lot of ways that we can work together to break down those barriers, to work, to get more, where gender is no longer a factor when these opportunities come up.
I think I thought of two things, Allison, when great points, both Tammy and Susan, and very like tactical. When I think about where do we have opportunities for improvement or growth for women in tech, there's two things that come to mind. One is self-advocacy. We often want to support others, but we don't think about ourselves. And I can say with all certainty that my career trajectory started to grow when I started advocating for myself. And I'll be honest, some people looked at me like, "Oh, you're just self-serving," or you're walking around kind of pitching yourself. And I'm like, "Well, yes. Nobody knows if you want to grow in your career unless you speak up about it, and you can't expect others to do that for you. You've got to do it for yourself." So self-advocacy is something we can teach younger women to do. And number two, this drives me bananas, and I hope that everybody hears this very clearly if they haven't done it before. Please negotiate. Ask, make the ask. When an opportunity arises, when merit time comes up, ask for what you want. Because if you don't ask, you don't know if you're going to get it. Do not be afraid of them saying, "You're crazy, get out the door." Just make the ask. Men do it all the time, and they're bold when they ask sometimes. And women never negotiate. Please negotiate. And if you need help, I've helped women write their resignation letters. I have had them review their offer letters with me. Turn to a woman that you trust, who maybe has experience and or just a loud voice, and walk through it with them. It could be an ally or a mentor as well, but talk to somebody to make sure that you're asking for all the right stuff. It doesn't have to just be salary. There's a lot you can negotiate. So I implore women to please just take the opportunity to make the ask.
I think
definitely agree.
once I learned about negotiation, I haven't not negotiated my offers. So I think that is really key. And back to the other comments that you made, Michelle, like if you're not going to advocate for yourself, no one else is going to advocate for you. So you definitely, I don't feel like it's self-serving at all. I mean, you wouldn't be in a VP position right now if it wasn't for advocating for yourself. So
yeah, it's, at the end of the day, we are all selfish beings, unfortunately, and we have bills to pay. So we're doing it for ourselves. And I want to retire. I want to be on the ship to retirement. And so I've got a goal in life, and it's to not work for the rest of my life. That's number one.
That's a good goal.
I'm telling you, Michelle, write a book. Write a book.
Yeah.
We'll
To
start
your
with
point, I always feel like the worst thing that they could say is no, and you've at least tried, you've done your best. If someone says no, well, you gave it your all.
That's right. And perhaps you learned that wasn't the environment for you. Like I firmly believe everything happens for a reason. And so, you just got to trust that it happened for a reason, and you move on to the next opportunity, and you'll be shocked. Sometimes I think a lot of us that have been through waves of unemployment, as an example, where we were out of work and it felt like the most daunting, overwhelming experience, we ended up landing somewhere that was a better opportunity. And so just keeping that forefront of mind that a no is okay. You're going to get through it, and then you find the next thing that fits what you're looking for. And what you
One time I was negotiating, and it was based on my printer, and it sounds really silly, but what happened was my printer wasn't working, and I had to print off the documents to send back to the company. And when I didn't have a printer that was working, I went, got it all back to them. And then when I went to negotiate, I said, printers are expensive, so I need a new printer. So you're going to need to hike that up a little bit more. So, I mean, you can make it a little lighthearted. So it's not, I mean, if you're intimidated about asking for more money, you can do that little, like, maybe lightheartedness to make it, feel a little less intimidating. But that was one of the things I did just to negotiate salary once.
Yeah, and I had thought of similar question before we got started, and I wanted to put a challenge back out there to those that ask that same question of how do we, encourage women to stay and be part of this industry, is that I don't know how to say this politically correct, so I'm just going to gently say it, and hopefully it's not going to offend anybody, but in my approach to my day-to-day is that there is feminine energy and there's masculine energy, and there's a way that those can commingle without causing a lot of friction. And one thing that I have learned in my relationships with males in the industry who are allies and who are interested in seeing me grow is that they understand where I come from when I approach a project. For me, my feminine energy approaches a project in the sense that it's going to nurture the hell out of it. I want to see that project not only succeed, but be the best it could possibly be, right? And so if there is not a place for me to, seek those characteristics out in management or in teamwork, then I'm going to feel less utilized, which eventually will get me to a point where I just don't even feel like I'm being seen or heard or understood by my management. So I would love to continue that conversation too with anybody who's interested in how that looks in the workplace. Part of my master's is actually about industrial organizational and psychology, how teams work and how to intermingle um, those different energies that are coming in. And don't even get me started on egos when it comes to masculine and feminine energy, but it's a lot of fun. And there is a way to learn how to talk language that women hear and want to feel included in job descriptions. I love that point. I'm also tired of hearing it because it seems to be like the go-to thing. Oh, make this. And I want us to get past it just being about the job description. I want it to also be about environment. I want it to be about leadership. I want it to be about um, if your company's so good, then it should be known around the industry that it's good in welcoming women, right? It's not just about different departmental things. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of a challenge I have is do some research, get to know what it's like to be in healthy working relationships with coworkers who are women, and I think that'll really help kind of start spearheading some progress.
Thank you. And I know we only have a few minutes left, so in the interest of branding yourself and promoting yourself, I wanted to take a moment to talk to such accomplished individuals and talk about what do you feel like is your proudest moment or biggest accomplishment in the industry? I want to shine a spotlight on all of your successes. Kianna, you look ready to share.
I was to say, I'll go ahead and get started.
Tammy can go first.
Go right now. Here we go. No, I think some of my more prouder moments is being able to help women in this industry. And it may sound cliche, but like I have a passion for continuing advocacy for women in this industry, and I think being the chair to the VIX Women's Council was just like the culmination of that. I mean, my term is over, but I still feel like it's still in me to, be a bright star for women that are looking for, help in this industry. So I'll stop there because I want everyone to have a chance to answer this, but that's how I feel is like my biggest contribution to the industry.
Thank you.
When I was thinking about this question, I was struggling. I was like, what is it? What is my proudest moment? And then
Do you need me to answer that for you, Kianna?
No, but when I was prepping for it, everyone was like, we have a lot of them. And I was like, wow, really? Actually, yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. So now that I'm thinking about it, I need to stop with the humility and advocate for myself, right? Yes. Thanks, Michelle, for that. But I think one of the biggest things I would say is like going hand in hand with firsts. So I talked about a lot of firsts when I was growing up. And I think now starting my career at Sony Electronics, being like the first female sales support engineer on our professional side, being the first female product manager on the professional side, doing 30 under 30 and that being super exciting with Commercial Integrator. I never thought that I would see my face in one of those class pictures. So that was pretty amazing. And then, even launching this first Tech Tuesday, I was a part of the first Tech Tuesday launch. I had all my gear put together. We started doing like hand-free solutions and like virtual demos all during COVID. And it was just stemming from the idea of that I will not sit by in my office doing nothing, right? So I think, just being the first and having that be so exciting for me in my career.
You go, Kianna. Dang.
She's a rock star. And honestly, much of the glue for this group. So you're just amazing, Kianna. Very similar. I was like, man, like the greatest. But I honestly think what just gives me the biggest joy, and so I'll call it my greatest accomplishment, is when I get a text from a former coworker, a young female in the industry, who's like, "Hey, can I just bend your ear for a minute? I'm having a tough day," or "I have this offer letter in my hands, and I would love to review it with you." That just tells me that I've done something to make an impact, that I've broken some ceiling for somebody that I maybe didn't necessarily feel when I was young in technology. So to me, that's the footprint that I'm leaving behind, is making a difference for even a handful of women in the industry. That is everything to me, and that's and men, by the way. I will say I've had some very, very close friends in the industry who have come to me, who are men, who are like, "I don't know what to do with this offer letter. Can you review it with me, or can you help me with my resume?" That is just that's the best feeling in the world. It's the biggest compliment. So that's my footprint. That is what's most meaningful to me every day.
Is it my turn or is it Susan's turn?
Rock,
Go,
paper,
Susan.
scissors.
You first. I feel like I've talked a lot, so you talk.
I think for me, it's there's a lot of things I can look at my tribe. Being there for my tribe, helping them, and but for me, it's sticking up for myself. Really, I can be that kind of person that kind of is in the background, and I try to be a good listener, but at the same time is having those tough conversations, and advocating for yourself. And I don't know if there's one big accomplishment. I think there's a lot of little mini steps that, improving yourself, those first experiences that you have, and experiencing those, that helps you become and shape who you are. And I guess that's what I would say for me.
Perfect.
I love that,
Last,
Susan. That was very
last but
similar
not least.
yeah, that was I actually want to throw this question back to you, Allison, because I feel like so weird not including you in some of these answers because you're just as much of a rock star at Sony. Similar to Susan's answer for sure is I've actually the self-growth. When I started in the industry, I was like this whelp of a sponge, and the pros of that was I learned everything I possibly could. The cons of that was I was taken advantage of in a lot of ways. So the learning myself, growing into who I need to be as a woman to advocate for myself, and then that immediately creates better, effective ways of working for myself in the AV industry. I mean, I almost left a couple times because of the stress of it, and then I realized, nah, this is your home. Like, you actually love it here. You're just stressed out. So, yeah, I would say the self advocacy part and learning how to actually, challenge that offer letter and reach out to to the woman in the industry who I think is, next to God, and saying, hey, can we get some virtual coffee? Going out there and doing that, I would say that's probably my most favorite accomplishment. And to also Susan's point, there's been a lot of industry facing accomplishments that have been really awesome, and you can look them up on my LinkedIn. And it's so nice to be recognized in the industry for the work that I've been able to put into it. It makes me feel seen and valued, and I hope to achieve many more.
Thank you. I hope you do too. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much to all of you for joining us into this wonderful and esteemed seasoned panel of women here with us today. Thank you for your time, your insight, your expertise. I feel such a sense of community, and I hope everybody does reach out to you and take advantage of all of the wonderful networking opportunities and support that you're offering. I did want to let everybody know that the next Tech Tuesday webinar is on the 22nd of April, and it's an Earth Day special, Sony's vision for a sustainable AV industry. And you can find all of our existing Tech Tuesdays and future Tech Tuesdays will be on our YouTube channel. It's the Sony Pro USA YouTube channel. So thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Allison.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, ladies.
Thanks, Allison.